David Katz. David Katz was a 24-year-old gamer from Baltimore, USA. David came from a wealthy family. Despite this, David was very troubled. David's parents had a very nasty divorce. This caused David immense distress, with him being sent to a psychiatric hospital twice. During this time, there was only one thing that truly brought David joy. That was the video game Madden, which David would play for days on end, sometimes without bathing. All this time playing Madden actually made David one of the game's top players, becoming known in the Madden community by his gamertag Bread. Before long, David began competing in Madden tournaments, actually winning the Madden 2017 championship. David was known for showing no emotion when playing, but this would change on August 26, 2018. David was competing in a Madden tournament in Jacksonville, Florida, with 30 gamers competing for a $5,000 cash prize. The tournament was taking place at the Good Luck Have Fun game bar, with thousands watching live on Twitch. Unfortunately, David had not been playing well, actually losing a few games. Other gamers in the tournament noticed this, and said David had been acting weird all weekend, with David refusing to shake hands with any player he lost to.
Weird all weekend, man. I mean, he had shades on, he didn't speak to anybody. Even after we played, I beat him. I went to shake his hand and tell him good game, and he just looked at me. He didn't say anything.
The final straw came when David lost to another player named Bugs. This would knock David out of the tournament, and he did not take this well, having a massive outburst, refusing to shake Bugs' hand, and then storming out of the bar, with other gamers assuming David had stormed off and gone home. But really, David had a much more sinister plan. A few minutes later, David would return to the bar. In his hands were 2 pistols, one even equipped with a laser sight. David would fire 12 shots, with the first shot being caught live on Twitch. You can actually see the red dot from David's laser sight being pointed at a gamer named Elijah Clayton. The shots caused massive panic in the busy bar. People began flipping tables over to hide, while others dialed 911, prompting a police and SWAT team response. This resulted in a standoff for some time, until one more shot from inside the bar could be heard. That shot would be David taking himself out. Police and SWAT stormed the bar, finding Elijah Clayton and Taylor Robinson deceased, as well as David Katz himself. 11 other people were injured, one of whom had even been shot in the chest, but thankfully all 11 injured survived. The passing of Elijah and Taylor shook the Madden community, as they were both loved by gamers and their own families. But one question still remained: why did David do this? It's possible it was due to David's mental health issues, with many saying getting kicked out of the tournament might have caused him to crack, while others said David and Elijah had a big rivalry, which is why many believe David did this all because of a gaming beef he had with Elijah. Casey Viner and Tyler Barris. On December 28, 2017, 17-year-old Casey Viner was playing Call of Duty World War II. He had been playing against another player, who Casey had met on a website which allows you to place bets on Call of Duty games. Casey and the other player made a $1.50 bet that either one of them would win. The other player beat Casey, meaning that he won the $1.50 bet. It may sound like fun and games, but Casey was seriously annoyed about losing this bet, so called his friend Tyler Barris. Casey and Tyler then tried to find out who the other player was, before long finding the player's real identity, Shane Gaskill of Wichita, Kansas. Casey and Tyler began taunting Shane on Twitter. Shane responded by posting an address and said, "Try something," which led to Tyler Barris swatting the address. If you don't know, swatting is where you call the SWAT team to someone's house, pretending a serious crime is going on there, in an attempt to scare whoever's living there. But what Tyler didn't know was, Shane did not live at that address. Instead, Shane had sent Tyler and Casey his old address, not actually expecting they would SWAT it. This resulted in a SWAT team showing up to the house of Andrew Finch, an innocent, unarmed single father, who had absolutely no idea about the gaming beef going on. When the SWAT team showed up to Andrew's house, they shot him by mistake, sadly ending his life. Investigators began looking into this, soon realizing it was a swatting gone wrong. Casey, Tyler, and Shane were all arrested. Tyler was sentenced to 20 years in prison for making the call. Casey was sentenced to 15 months, because while he didn't make the call, he did tell Tyler to do it. Finally, Shane Gaskill was sentenced to 18 months. This was for posting the address he no longer lived at. Some said Casey's sentence was way too light, while Shane's was too harsh, as Casey and Tyler had been trying to swat Shane. But the biggest victims in all of this are Andrew Finch, who lost his life for no reason, and Andrew's son, who now has to grow up without any parents. All because of these gamers, who took a $1.50 Call of Duty bet way too far. Edward Kang. In 2024, 20-year-old Edward Kang had been playing the game Arcade. Arcade is a fantasy game that you can play with other people online. Edward, who is from New Jersey, had been playing the game with a man named Zachary Din, who was over 1,000 miles away in Florida. They'd been playing together for some time, but one day Edward and Zachary had a dispute over the game, leading to the two no longer playing together. The friends had never met in person, so you might think the story would end there. But Edward had other ideas, flying from New Jersey to Florida. Upon arriving, he purchased a flashlight and a hammer, before putting on all black clothing, gloves, and a mask. Edward then went to Zachary's home and attempted to end Zachary's life using the hammer. Thankfully, Zachary's screams woke up his stepfather, who was also in the house at the time. Zachary's stepfather rushed in and saw him on the ground struggling with Edward. Thankfully, they were able to restrain Edward and promptly called police. Zachary had severe head wounds, but thankfully survived, with police saying this was one of the strangest cases they had ever seen. It's crazy Edward traveled over 1,000 miles, simply over a video game dispute. Now Edward could face a life sentence for attempted murder. The trial is still ongoing, but as police say, it will be a very long time before Edward plays video games again. Daniel Petrick. In 2007, Daniel Petrick was 16 years old. Like most 16-year-old boys, he was obsessed with Halo 3, which was the most popular game at the time. Friends and family described Daniel as a normal and happy teenager who had no psychological problems. But Daniel was said to be totally addicted to Halo 3, playing it for 7 or 8 hours every day. But there was a problem. Halo 3 was rated M for mature. Because Daniel was only 16, his father did not want him playing a mature game. So Daniel's father took his game away. This prompted Daniel to move into his friend's house, also he could play Halo 3. While living with his friend, Daniel would spend 18 hours per day playing Halo. Eventually, he moved back in with his parents, and secretly bought another copy of Halo 3. But when Daniel's dad discovered this, he confiscated the game yet again, locking it in his gun safe. 1 week later, on October 20th, 2007, Daniel found his father's keys to unlock the safe. Daniel opened the safe and took out his game, as well as his father's pistol. That evening, Daniel walked up behind his parents as they were sitting on the couch, saying, "Close your eyes, I have a surprise for you." Daniel then shot both his parents. Miraculously, Daniel's father Mark survived. However, Daniel's mother Susan was not so lucky, sadly losing her life. Daniel was soon arrested. In court, Daniel's eyes were red from crying. He said he misses his mother and had no idea why he did something so terrible. Surprisingly, Daniel's father asked the judge to be lenient during sentencing, meaning Daniel was only given 23 years behind bars, despite facing life without parole. Daniel is set to be released in 2032, but many say he should never be allowed out, as he tried to end both his parents' lives, all because of a video game. Lewis Daines. In 2015, 19-year-old Lewis Daines from Essex, UK, had been playing Call of Duty on his PC. While playing, he met a 14-year-old boy named Breck Bednar. The two played Call of Duty for some time, when one day, Lewis suggested the two meet up. Breck agreed. So one night, Breck told his parents he would sleep over at a friend's house, near to where they lived in Surrey. But really, Breck secretly travelled to Essex, where he would meet Lewis Daines. But when Breck arrived at Lewis's house, things soon went bad. Lewis used duct tape on Breck's wrists and ankles, before taking a knife to Breck's neck, sadly ending Breck's life. Exactly why Lewis did this is unclear. Lewis claimed they had got into an altercation, but the judge did not believe this, calling Lewis a sadistic killer and sentencing him to 25 years in prison. Devin Vanderhoff. In 2024, Devin Vanderhoff from Canada had been gaming with a woman from California. As the two played, Devin began to fall in love with this woman, despite the fact that they'd never met in real life. But upon learning the woman had a boyfriend, Devin became enraged. After this, Devin would not be online for the next few days, with the woman assuming Devin no longer wanted to play with her. But the real reason Devin was not online is much more sinister. He had flown all the way from Canada to California, and found where the woman lived. One evening at 10 p.m, Devin knocked on the woman's door. He was posing as a delivery driver holding a package, but inside the package were handcuffs, duct tape, and knives. The woman's boyfriend opened the door. Devin then forced his way in, going on to badly injure the woman and her boyfriend. Thankfully though, the pair were able to overpower Devin. Police were called and Devin was soon arrested, and is being held on a $4 million bail. The trial is still ongoing, and it said Devin could be sentenced to 25 years behind bars for what he did. Thankfully the woman and her boyfriend survived, but this really is proof you need to be careful who you talk to online. Guilherme Costa. Guilherme Costa is an 18-year-old from Brazil. He played Call of Duty Mobile competitively under the gamertag Flashlight for the Brazilian esports team Gamers Elite. While playing Call of Duty Mobile, Guilherme met a player from a rival team, 19-year-old Ingrid da Silva, who played under the gamertag Soul for the esports team Fantastic Brazil Impact. Although they were rivals from two different teams, they had gotten pretty close, even meeting up in real life a few times, with Guilherme's mother saying they seemed like good friends. But before long, Guilherme's true dark motive would be revealed. On February 22nd, 2021, Ingrid would visit Guilherme at his house. Guilherme had been plotting for 2 weeks to lure her over, and then end her life, which is exactly what he did, ending Ingrid's life with a sword. After doing this, Guilherme took a selfie.
Vocês estão achando que é tinta, que é montagem ou algo do tipo, mas não é. Eu realmente matei ela, entendeu? E bom, eu tenho um livro também, e o pessoal tá divulgando já esse meu livro. E é isso aí. Eu espero que vocês leiam. Tem algumas verdades sobre isso.
Guilherme then went on to send this very haunting video to friends, before going on the run. But the next day, Guilherme turned himself in. When asked why he did such an evil crime, Guilherme said this.
Mas por que você fez isso? Porque quis?
Você tá rindo de uma situação, Guilherme. Você matou uma menina novinha, Guilherme. Por que você fez isso?
Police later searched Guilherme's home and found his manifesto he'd mentioned in the video he'd sent to friends. In the manifesto, he said he ended Ingrid's life as a protest against Christianity, but what he meant by this is not clear. Later, it was found Guilherme had psychological issues. Guilherme was later sentenced to 14 years in prison, but whatever Guilherme's situation was, it's so sad Ingrid lost her life for no reason. Which of these cases did you find the most shocking? Tell me in the comments down below.